Hello, health enthusiasts, and welcome to Rev Up Health, your go-to podcast for all things wellness. I'm Dr. Mark Hechler.
And I'm Tandi Hechler. Together, we're here to fuel your health journey with the best of functional medicine and holistic well-being.
Each episode will dive deep into topics that matter to your health, bringing you the latest insights, research, and inspiring stories.
So whether you're on a quest for vibrant health or just looking for daily health tips, we've got you covered.
So let's embark on this journey together and transform the way you live.
Hello. Today on the podcast, we are going to talk about the fact that it is July and some people are participating in dry July. So no alcohol for the month of July.
Right. So basically our podcast today is just more of a kind of our opinions about alcohol and, okay, do we need it? What does it do to us? Those types of ideas and, what we do and what we don't do, what we know we should do. But yet we still do it. We still drink alcohol. So I think we need to bring these topics up and let everybody start to think about their own activities, their own habits, and their own diet.
Yeah. It is one of those things where you know what you should do, and then you know what you do, and kind of weighing those things out. And I think a big thing to consider here is being intentional and intentionality around your health. Because, some people say everything in moderation, but I did hear a conversation with Dr. Casey Means recently, and she was like, I'm going to call bullshit on that, basically. She said, there are some things that are not good in moderation. Ultra-processed foods, probably alcohol, some other things, sugar, not good in moderation even.
Wasn't she to the fact that someone asked her a question about what's the phrase
yes.
she doesn't, the most hates? And it was
the worst advice ever given.
Yeah, there is.
Everything in moderation, she said.
Yeah,
that's the worst advice. I mean, after she said it and I explained it, I'm like, oh, she's got a good point there.
Yeah. And, moderation. I mean, there is no level of alcohol that is good for your body. And there's no way that you can convince me otherwise. But there's also, it's certainly something that people say, well, I have a glass of wine occasionally, or I have a cocktail or a beer. I mean, there's a lot of things that are really not good about alcohol. And when you look at, and I hate to talk to the beer drinkers around here, but drinking beer is probably one of the worst things you could possibly do for your body in so many different ways. I think it's almost better to eat a loaf of bread than it is to drink beer. So, or a nice big chocolate cake, which sounds good, but
in moderation.
In moderation.
But I really think, one of our favorite cocktails is an orange bourbon crush, which not only has the alcohol in the bourbon, but is also fruit juice, simple syrup. It's the worst.
It's got sugar in
it.
It's
So not only is it something that...
But the ice is so amazing in that.
Foam up ice.
Oh, my goodness, yeah. Who doesn't like Sonic ice? Because that's kind of what this restaurant uses, this ice, like nugget ice. So it makes it so much better. I think if you just put it in a glass and drag it out, they would like it near as good as it is with ice. I'm not going to test
something.
I'm going to test that.
So anyway, in honor of Dry July, we are going to really start thinking about this and being a little bit more intentional about when we partake. So one of the things that we know, not even really of all the, illnesses that alcohol can cause, it also affects your sleep. So when you're drinking alcohol before bed or, close to bedtime, your sleep is going to suffer. And we know that sleep is so important. So this is where that intentionality comes in. If you're going to decide to make the decision to do it, make sure that it isn't at a time that it's going to impact your sleep.
Right. Now, does that mean that it's okay to drink beer for breakfast or to take, bourbon shots in the morning before lunch? Yeah. But certainly, obviously, the majority of the time that adults typically will drink alcohol is in the evening for dinner. And well, what does that do? That affects everything. It affects all kinds of things. So, I mean,
sleep, acid reflux.
Oh yeah.
It can just.
Yeah, neurologically it can affect that. I mean, and obviously there's a lot of other things it affects too, but it's certainly something that in the evening it is kind of the worst thing. Certainly, and reflux is one of those things that people don't think about too, because that's going to affect your sleep too, even if you didn't.
Right. Very true.
But some of the statistics. I mean, I would like to let people know some of the statistics. I had kind of written down because there's a lot of things, but the global burden of alcohol contributes to 3 million deaths annually worldwide, accounting for a little over 5% of all deaths. Now, that is crazy to think that. Liver disease, the effects of alcohol liver disease. Alcohol liver disease accounts for approximately 40 to 50% of liver cirrhosis deaths, which is quite interesting too. So, cancers. It's responsible for about 4% of all the cancer deaths just in the United States alone.
And I think it's something like 7 different. I heard Dr. Allen talking about something the other day, and he was talking about how it's linked to 7 different types of cancer. Mm-hmm. So you're not even just focused on liver cancer. It's, lots of different types of cancer.
These are probably not observational things. These are probably caused things, actually. So, diabetes, that's a big one. Heavy alcohol consumption contributes, increases the risk of type 2 diabetes by 43%. Cardiovascular disease affects that too. That heavy drinking is going to increase your risk for cardiovascular diseases by up to 40% also. So it's not just something that affects your sleep or your reflux, and it affects neurologically. It affects your heart, affects, internal organs. It affects your
gut health.
Absolutely, it's certainly something that really gives a lot of dysbiosis for folks too. So, obviously some people may know that firsthand. So, or not even talking about the people that may have allergic reactions to it.
Yes.
Or sensitivities to it.
Which that is definitely something that happens as well. People have sensitivities. I've heard people say, oh, I can't drink this type of wine because I have a reaction, but I can drink white wine. And, if you're reacting, you're probably reacting regardless.
Mm-hmm. And it's going to affect, depression and anxiety. It's going to aggravate that, worsen that, not make it more prevalent. And it is truly something that it can become addictive. It's like sugar. Sugar is addictive. So can alcohol. It's a flavor thing that people like, and it's hard to move into the mocktail arena, because you compare when you start drinking mocktails, you're always trying to compare it to, well, this tastes just like bourbon, kinda, or just tastes just like wine, kinda, but it is not the same thing. That's some people just enjoy that flavor, and I have also enjoyed the flavor. So it's something you just need to decide whether, okay, is it better for me to forego that to save my mitochondria and keep from toxifying my mitochondria, or you're making your liver work extra hard. Your liver is always there. It's on your side. It's trying to detoxify you all the time. But when we continue to throw this alcohol into it, does its toll.
So I guess I'll ask you the question. I don't know that I can answer it, so don't ask it back. But what is it about an orange bourbon crush that you like so much?
It is purely flavor.
So not at all about how it makes you feel.
No, not at all. Because when I first started drinking that, this was anything, a nice wine too. It's the flavor, the smooth, it's almost like a palatable texture that it gives you. And I think that's more of a central nervous system dependency addiction feeling. But it also, maybe there's more of a release and various different hormones or endorphins that makes you feel good when you drink that. So that's a great question.
Yeah. And I think
is it dopamine addiction? I don't know.
Yeah. It is very interesting to know the choices that you should make and rationalize why you don't.
Right.
And I think it's important for people to know that you're not alone in that reasoning and that kind of struggle. I think just like it is with alcohol, that it can go to any of the other things that we do, the food that we eat that we know we shouldn't. So it is a real thing. And I think sometimes it is just habits and routines. And, this is the one thing we do when we go out. And
it sounds like it's a reward. You think of it as such that it's a reward. It's like, oh, about a rough week I've had at work, or a rough day, at work, or a long day working over the weekend, or a long weekend, and I just need to relax with a glass of wine or something. I have been there multiple times in that situation, and that it's almost as if it's saying that, man, I've had a tough week, and this is what I'm going to do to reward myself, instead of, okay, I'm going to go have a big slice of watermelon, or I'm going to have a big bowl of carrots and celery. Wow, I can't wait to do that. It's been a rough week. What do you do?
That's true. And I think you do have to rewire your reward system.
Right.
And maybe find things that do taste similar, that are not the same as those things that aren't as good for you. So
right. And this, obviously, everyone has probably heard of, or you could potentially hurry up my 80-20 rule, but this alcohol would be certainly in the 20% rule, where it is something that you don't want to do very often. So that's one of the few things that I can do. But it's really, really difficult.
Yeah. And I think there are ways that you can, some people call this biohacking a little bit, but there are ways that you can do things differently, so maybe it isn't as impactful, negatively impacting. Not to say I do think alcohol is going to negatively impact you regardless. However, you probably could drink it in a way that it won't affect your sleep like it would normally. And so it is an interesting thought.
But yeah, the impact on our health is quite significant. And, like we said, in moderation, what does that mean? Is that one glass a week, or one or two glasses of wine a week? What is it? What does it mean? I don't know what it means to you. It's something you'll have to think about in your own life. How many times do you want to sit down and have a beer with a pizza, or a beer with a burger, something like that? That's a pretty common thing. But
right.
In my younger days, I would have a beer occasionally. I don't have beer anymore, and so I just come to the conclusion that I'm not going to subject myself into that type of exposure. But also, I would rather get my carbs another way. I don't want to really drink my carbs.
Which is the same with your orange bourbon crush.
But that's, I try to look at it. Maybe they could put something different in that at ice.
Yeah.
Something, maybe a fruit juice. Now, I don't know, okay with that. Maybe we need to go somewhere to get fruit smoothies or vegetables.
So another thing that I was just kind of thinking about as we're talking is that oftentimes, you go to events and alcohol is related to the events that you go to. So
yeah, there's got to be some statistics to talk about how much beer is drank at a football game.
Oh yeah, pretty sure.
It's just incredible. So obviously, halftime is spent in the bathroom line, wait for everybody to go in because they drink beer the first half or before the game. And so,
yeah. So I think those types of things, that's another reason that it can be hard to give up these things that you shouldn't do, but you get in these situations and these events that you're used to going to and that you enjoy doing, and it's there and it's part of the experience. So it's a matter of kind of changing what that looks like. We have been going to the Kansas City Current games which are so much fun. And we love it because they actually sell sparkling water in the big cans, which there isn't another sporting event that I have been to that had sparkling water as an option.
Right. Yeah. So we do drink a lot of that. And that's certainly something that, yes, there's that it's not just water. It's, it's got that enhanced flavor. And I think that's something that rewards the brain. So I think actually, so.
Yeah. So it is interesting how these types of things come up and you just kind of have to navigate. And, I think cutting back, certainly there's definitely things cutting back is going to help, so making that the first step is, cutting back on sugar or alcohol or ultra processed foods. I mean, obviously there are things that we absolutely want out of our diet and our body, but just making the first step and deciding, okay, I'm going to cut back in this way. So.
Right. But you also have to think about, okay, what's the effects of this? What's this going to do? If I eat, for instance, if I eat this cookie, right? If I drink this beer, if I drink this shot of bourbon or whatever, I mean, what's that going to do to the quality, the metabolism, the health of the mitochondria in my cells, whether it be in your brain or throughout your body? So it's almost something I guess you need to think about. It's okay, the longer I keep drinking this or the longer I keep eating this, maybe the younger the earlier I'm going to die. Maybe you can think of it that way, or maybe the earlier I'm going to have an onset of dementia, which is certainly something of a consideration. But you hate to spend your whole life being worried and have a disease.
And I don't think that's...
But it's certainly something of that out there.
Yes. So Dr. Casey Means talks about every time she goes to eat something, she asks, what kind of energy is this going to make? Like, is this going to fuel my body in a good way? Or is this going to be bad for my body? And I think that is something that you can kind of think about. Like,
right.
How is this chocolate cake or this orange bourbon crush going to build new cells? Because that's what we're doing. Like, everything that we're taking into our body is the building blocks of the next iteration of ourselves.
Right. Yeah. Because our cells constantly turn over. So you're creating cells and getting rid of cells and getting rid of the damaged cells. So it's a process, if you will. But certainly, that's certainly something to consider.
So in honor of dry July or dry January or sober October or whatever month, what may be coming up, we're going to do a virtual mocktail happy hour on Thursdays. Right now we're saying for the month of July, and maybe it will go over well and it will do it longer. Maybe
so. Maybe it's to make it part of your regular routine.
Yeah.
Every month.
So we hope that this really did a couple of things. Helped everyone know that you're not alone in your struggle to change from, your standard habits and the things that you've been doing and kind of getting at those treats and those things that you really love. Like, you're not alone. People everyone struggles with these types of things.
Right. And I also noticed that too, that one thing I think I wanted to mention is performance. For me with marathon running is I know that alcohol is going to disrupt that. I know that I'm not going to come to the start line and I'm not going to get to the finish line and as optimally as I should have or would have if I had, an orange bourbon crush or a glass of wine. When do you decide not to going up to these types of physical events? That's a good question. That might be something maybe we can research that and come back at. Maybe there's studies that have been done that show it's certainly something I haven't seen. I just know that it does affect my quality of metabolic health. And obviously, if my mitochondria are running on all cylinders, I'm going to be running very well too. So that's certainly something of consideration.
Got it. So the other thing is just to invite you guys to be mindful and intentional about the decisions you make. And I hope that you'll join us on Thursdays for virtual happy hour.
Making a thing. So, all right. Well, reach out to us if you have questions. You want us to have a special podcast about something, shoot us a DM. Follow us at Revelation Health and Wellbeing. But have a healthy day.
Thank you for tuning in to another episode of Rev Up Health. We hope you're leaving with some valuable insights to supercharge your health journey.
Don't forget to follow or subscribe to Rev Up Health wherever you listen to your podcasts. And if you enjoyed today's episode, please leave us a rating and review.
Have a topic you want us to explore? Reach out to us on social media channels. We love hearing from our wellness community.
Until next time, keep thriving, and remember, your journey to health is a journey to a better you.
Stay well, and we'll connect with you again soon. This is Tandi.
And this is Dr. Mark, signing off from Rev Up Health. Take care.
The information provided in this podcast is for educational purposes only and is not intended as medical advice. The content is designed to support, not replace, the relationship that exists between a patient and their healthcare provider. Always consult with a qualified healthcare professional before making any changes to your healthcare regimen, including diet, exercise, or treatment plans. The views and opinions expressed in this podcast are those of the hosts and guests and do not necessarily reflect the official policy or position of Revelation Health and Wellbeing.